going to start off with the basics. Okay, so the first unit are the basic concepts of English grammar. Okay, now this includes parts of speech, sentences versus fragments, and clauses. So today our goal is going to be to discuss parts of speech. Okay, now the reason again that we discuss these are these topics, even though they seem simple, is because you need them. Okay, you need a great understanding of this in order to do well and understand future topics. Okay. So although you will never be directly asked in SAT, like what is a noun or identify the verb or find the conjunction, you still have to know these in order to apply topics, especially like punctuation and your agreement tests. Okay. So let's go ahead and start off with nouns, okay? Now, a noun is going to be any word that identifies a person, place, or thing, okay? We have two main divisions of nouns. We have common nouns and proper nouns. Common nouns are going to be nouns, so words that are identifying people, places, or things, but aren't specifying one in particular, okay? And proper nouns are going to be nouns that are identifying a person, place, or thing, but they're going to be identifying someone or something in particular. Okay, so they're naming out one of them. Okay, they're pointing someone or something out. Ishal, yes. So this is going to be uploaded in the Google Drive folder. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. So when we're talking about people, if we have the sentence, the teacher encouraged his students to explore their creativity through various forms of art, emphasizing that self-expression is a vital part of personal growth. Okay. Now, because we have not specified one particular teacher, we do not capitalize the first letter here. Okay. If I were to replace this with the name of a teacher, okay, then I would capitalize the first letter of that word because now I'm talking about one person in particular. For example, Mr. Roberto encouraged his students to explore their creativity through various forms of art, emphasizing that self-expression is a vital part of personal growth. Okay, now because I've identified one teacher in particular, I do have to capitalize Roberto. Okay. So far, so good. Okay. Now, if I'm talking about something, the prestigious academy fostered an environment where students were encouraged to pursue academic excellence and develop critical thinking skills. Again, I have not specifically mentioned a prestigious academy, so I don't capitalize the first words. If I were to replace this with the name of an academy, such as Dartmouth College, now because I'm talking about one place in particular, I have to capitalize the first letter of these words. Okay. Last but not least, if I look at sentences containing or talking about something, the latest phone has set a new standard in the smartphone industry, captivating customers with its innovative features. Again, I've not specifically mentioned a particular type of phone, so I don't capitalize the first letter. But when I replace this word with Samsung, now I'm talking about one particular brand, I do capitalize the first letter. Okay. Now my nouns are going to be answering one of two questions. Okay. So they're going to be either telling me who or what is being discussed. Okay. Now because they answer the questions of who or what is being discussed, my noun can act as or can be identified as the subject of the sentence. Okay. Now I only have one other part of speech that can be identified as the subject of the sentence. And these are my pronouns. Now, something to keep in mind is that any table that you see in the cheat sheet, you have to memorize. It's here because you have to memorize it. There's no other way around it. Okay? Now, my pronouns can also be identified as the subject of the sentence because they also answer the question of who or what is being discussed. Now, just like my nouns were divided into three categories, my pronouns are also divided into three categories, but they're slightly different. So I have pronouns that I can only ever use when I'm talking about or discussing people. I have pronouns which can only ever be used when I'm talking about things, and then I have pronouns that I can be used when I'm talking about people or things. Okay, guys, yes. So this document is one of the cheat sheets. It's going to be uploaded in the Google Drive folder. Okay, so when we go on our break, I will share the link of the Google Drive folder in the group description of the group chat. Okay, so you will have this document. So anything that I use during class, whether it's the book, the cheat sheet, or if we go over certain assignments, all of that will be shared with you. Okay? Okay, so pronouns are answering the question of who or what, and now let's go over which pronouns fall into which category. So you do have to memorize all these pronouns, but let's break it down so it's easier to memorize, okay? So the ones that we can only use for people. So these pronouns can only ever be used when referring to or talking about people or a person. So I, you, he, she, we, and then any word that ends in one or body, okay? No one, anyone, someone, everyone, anybody, somebody, everybody, okay? Now, what pronouns are used only when I'm referring to things? Okay. It and then any word that ends in thing. Nothing, anything, everything, something. Okay. Now, these two columns are exclusive for their title, so only ever used for people, only ever used for things. Okay. Now, the third category are going to be words or pronouns that I can use whether I'm talking about people or things. So they can be used in both situations. Now, I know this looks like a very daunting list, it's very long, but the trick here is that almost all of these words are quantitative words. So almost all of these words are telling you about a quantity or an amount, okay? None, one, each, every, any, few, both, some, several, many, most, all, okay? The only outliers are more, others, and they. Okay, other than that, every other word is telling you about some amount, some quantity. Okay? So now, so far we have discussed pronouns and nouns, okay? Both of these answer the question of who or what. So both of these can be identified as the subject of the sentence, okay? Everyone good so far? Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and discuss the next part of speech, which is going to be adjectives, okay? Now, with adjectives, what you want to remember is that they are only ever going to be describing or telling me more about the noun. Okay, so if you're ever trying to figure out if a word is an adjective, all you do is look at the word it's describing. Okay, if it is describing a noun, the word you are looking at is always going to be identified as an adjective. Okay? So if we look at the sentence here, the vibrant ancient city known for its stunning architecture and rich heritage attracted tourists eager to explore its narrow, winding streets. Okay, can you guys identify the nouns in this sentence? So words that are telling me about a person, a place, or a thing. You guys can write your answers in the chat box or turn on your mic and say them, whatever works better for you guys. Okay, so the first one you guys, okay, let's go ahead and underline what you guys have identified. Ancient city, architecture, heritage, streets. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Okay, so city is a place. Okay, so city would be the noun, not ancient. Okay, ancient is telling me more about city. So city is a noun, not ancient city. Okay, architecture is something perfect. Heritage is something. Okay, streets is a place, perfect. I have one more noun in this sentence. Can anyone identify it? Tourists, perfect. Okay. Now that I've identified my nouns, so I have city, architecture, heritage, and streets, okay, I look around these words, okay, for words that are telling me more about them. And the word that is telling me more about my noun is going to be an adjective, okay? So we're going to take it one at a time. So what are some, or what are the word or words that are telling me more about or describing the city? Perfect. Ancient and vibrant. These are both telling me more about the city. So both vibrant and ancient are adjectives. Okay. Do I have any words that are telling me more about the architecture? Stunning. Perfect. And for heritage, rich. What about for tourists? No adjective. Okay. There's no adjective here. Both attracted and eager are telling me about an action. Okay. They're not describing the tourists. Just because you have a noun does not mean you will always have an adjective. Okay. So tourists does not have any words describing it. What about for streets? Winding and narrow. Perfect. Okay. So do you see how we identify the nouns and the adjectives in the sentence? Essentially, this is also what you're going to be doing on your homework assignment, but for all the parts of speech. Okay. So in order to find an adjective, the easiest route is to first identify the noun. Okay. Any questions about adjectives? Okay. The next part of speech I want to discuss are verbs. Okay. Now, a verb is going to be any word that is telling you about an action. Okay, something that is happening. Now, there are only three tenses of verbs that you should know or that you have to have an understanding of at this point. Okay, present tense, past tense, and future tense. Okay, present tense is going to be talking about something that is happening at this moment. Past tense is going to be talking about something that has already occurred. And future tense is going to be telling me about something which will happen. Okay. Present tense is usually indicated by the addition of s at the end of the verb. The researcher analyzes data meticulously to uncover patterns that could lead to groundbreaking discoveries. Okay, something that is happening right now. Then I have the team completed their project ahead of schedule, impressing their advisors with their dedication. It typically ends in ed or n. Okay, example of words that end in n or something like taken. He has already taken the exam. Okay. Then we have future tense. The organization will launch a new initiative aimed at promoting environmental sustainability in local communities. Okay. You have to be able to read a sentence and figure out whether it is talking about something that is happening right now, something that's going to happen, or something that has already happened. Okay. And the reason for this is is because if you are unable to identify the tense that is being talked in, okay, you won't be able to fix or make changes to the rest of the sentence in order for it to be in the same tense, okay? This is especially important when we discuss subject-verb agreement, okay? Now, when we discuss subject-verb agreement, we also go over subtenses, okay? Now, what are subtenses? Basically, each of these three tenses, past, present, and future, have three subtenses, okay? So you have a total of 9, okay? 3 for present tense, 3 for past tense, and 3 for future tense. And your subtenses are basically different ways that I can tell you or that the author can tell you that something is happening in past tense or present tense or future tense. Okay? But at this point, you just have to be able to read a sentence and identify whether it is talking about something in present, past, or future tense. Okay? Are verbs clear? Okay, perfect. Now, before we take our 5-minute break, I want to discuss adverbs. Okay? Yeah, we'll look at some questions towards the end, okay? Okay. Let's go ahead and discuss our adverbs before we take our 5-minute break, okay? So an adverb is going to be any word that describes any part of speech except for the noun, okay? Because what part of speech did we say describes a noun? An adjective, perfect. Okay. So adjectives will always be describing nouns, and adverbs will be describing anything except for a noun. So what does that leave me with? That leaves me with verbs, adjectives, clauses, and other adverbs. Okay. So although adverbs are referred to as verb modifiers, you do have to remember that they can also be giving you more information about adjectives, clauses, or other adverbs. Okay, what does that mean? In order to identify an adverb, you have to first be able to identify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at some sentences and figure out our adverbs. Let's go ahead and look at this first sentence. The author skillfully crafted the narrative, weaving together themes that intricately explored the complexities of human nature. So I want everyone to go ahead and look at the sentence and identify any nouns that you see. So this sentence right here. Okay. Author, narrative, themes, and human nature. Human nature is one thing. Okay. That's why we don't just say nature. Okay. Now that we have identified the nouns, can you guys identify any adjectives? Do we have any adjectives? Okay. If we say that craft is an adjective, what word is it describing? Okay, guys, what part of speech does an adjective describe? A noun. Okay. So are skillfully crafted, intricately describing any of these nouns? Is crafted telling me, okay, they aren't. Crafted is not telling me about the author or the narrative. Intricately is not telling me about the theme. Okay. So these are not adjectives. I don't have any adjectives in this sentence. Okay. I don't have any words that are telling me more about the author, the narrative, the themes, or human nature. Okay. Now we've done nouns and adjectives. Can anyone identify any verbs in this sentence? So any words that are telling me about an action. Okay, perfect. Crafted is an action. Weaving, perfect. Explored, very nice. Okay. Now that I've identified both my verbs, my nouns, and the fact that there's no adjectives, now can anyone identify any adverbs? Okay. What word is skillfully telling me more about? What word is it describing? Crafted, okay? The verb, which is why it's an adverb. Perfect. Then we had, okay, intricately. What word is intricately telling me more about? Explored. Perfect. Okay. Does it make sense how we identified on my parts of speech here? Okay. You have to be very, very careful that you don't misinterpret adjectives and adverbs. This is especially important when we discuss punctuation, especially commas. Okay? Because there are rules that only pertain to adjectives. So you want to make sure that you don't mix these up. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at the next sentence. The orchestra performed exceptionally well, producing a sound that resonated profoundly with the audience. Go ahead and identify any nouns, okay? Person, place, or thing. Okay, orchestra, audience. Okay. Now look around these nouns. Do I have any words that are describing it? So do I have any adjectives? No. Perfect. I don't have any adjectives here. Do I have any verbs? Okay. Performed, resonated, producing. Perfect. Okay. Okay, now look around these words. Do I have any adverbs? Okay, exceptionally, profoundly. And remember, not all adverbs end in ly. Okay, the only rule I want you to use to figure out whether or not a word is an adverb is to see whether what kind of or what part of speech it is describing. Okay, so I have one more adverb in the sentence. Well, perfect. Okay, so let's look at why each of these three are adverbs. So exceptionally is an adverb because it is what? It's telling me about well. How well did they perform? Okay. Exceptionally is an adverb because it is describing another adverb. Well is an adverb because it is describing the verb. It's telling me about how they performed. Okay. How they performed. Profoundly is an adverb because it is telling me about how the sound resonated. Okay. Does this make sense? Okay. Remember, the only rule of thumb to use when trying to find adverbs is to look at the words they're describing because you don't well, I know in typically in school they teach you any word that ends in ly is an adverb, okay? But then you'll miss out on identifying the ones that don't end in ly. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at our third sentence. The remarkably talented pianist captivated the audience with her exquisite performance. Again, go ahead and identify any nouns. Um, Okay, so Ammon is asking, can we say exceptionally well since they both describe performed? We can't. They're not both describing performed. Exceptionally is describing well. It's saying how well it was, and well is describing performed. The orchestra performed well. Well is talking about performed. Okay, exceptionally is talking about how well. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect, no problem. Okay. Now for the sentence here, nouns, perfect. Pianist, audience. Okay. Now that we've identified our nouns, can we identify any, or are there any adjectives? Okay, so performance is something that is happening. Okay, it's an act. It's not a noun. Okay, for verbs we have, or sorry, adjectives. Talented because it's describing the pianist. Any other? Does anyone think we have any other? Remarkably. Okay, so what is remarkably telling me more about? Remarkably is telling me more about what word? Which of these words? Talented. Okay. So if it's telling me more, perfect. It's telling me more about an adjective. So that means that remarkably is actually an adverb. Okay. Can anyone identify any other adverbs I have in the sentence? Okay, perfect. Exquisite. Why? What word is it describing? Performance. Perfect. Okay. And the last verb I actually had was captivated. Okay. Any questions about the sentence? Performance is something that is going on, right? It's an action. Okay, something that the pianist is doing. Her is, yeah, because it refers to a person. So it's actually a pronoun because it answers the question of who or what. Okay, so it falls in that category of pronouns that are only ever used when we're talking about a person. Like I, you, he, she, we, and then any word that ends in one or body. Okay? Basically, pronoun is any word that can replace a noun or a noun phrase. So in this case, her is replacing pianist. Okay? Perform is also an action. Okay? So it is going to be a verb. Okay? Nouns are person, place, or thing. Okay? Yes. Okay? Anything that is telling you what the noun is doing is going to be a verb. Okay? No, a thing is like a tangible thing. It can be like an animal, or it can be um like a not inanimate object, phones, basket. Okay. Okay. The last part of speech that an adverb can modify or tell me more about is a clause, okay? And typically when an adverb is telling me more about or modifying the entire clause, it'll be separated from it with a comma. And this is basically to signify that we're not talking about the committee being surprising, but we're talking about the fact that the committee reached a unanimous decision after only a brief discussion. This whole thing is surprising, okay? Not much to discuss here. I don't go too much detail in this because typically on the SAT, the ones that come up more often are these three here. So when adverbs are modifying verbs, other adverbs, and adjectives. So these are the three that I really want you to pay attention to. Okay, again, in order to be able to pay attention to this and to identify adverbs, you have to know the other parts of speech and how to identify them. Okay. Is everyone good so far on pronouns, nouns? No, okay, so they're never going to directly ask you, oh, what is the verb in the sentence, or what is the adverb, or what is the adjective, but you need to be able to identify these for your rules of punctuation, subject verb agreement, pronoun noun agreement, noun noun agreement. Okay, so when we move forward for your more complex topics, you have to be able to identify these correctly in order to get any of that right, which is why we discuss it and why we spend so much time going over it. Okay. Um, it also depends on situation, Ahil. Okay, in this case, it's telling me what the pianist is doing. If we were just talking about a performance, okay, something that happened, that would be different. Okay, we have to look at exactly, yes. Just like for adverbs, if they're in a different position, they won't be talking about, they don't like that same word can be describing a noun, and if it's describing a noun, it becomes an adjective. Okay. Surprisingly is our adverb. It's talking about this whole clause, is describing this whole clause. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. A new link will be sent in your in your WhatsApp group chat, and then we'll go ahead and finish discussing conjunctions and prepositions. Okay. I will see you in 5 minutes, inshallah.